Hello everyone, welcome back to our video updates. It's Shade here. Today's video is going to discuss a topic that doesn't come up too often, but we had a related question recently, so I thought I'll put a video together to explain it a little bit so that in case you or your family members or friends come across this scenario, then you know how to react. So the question that came up was in respect to bail bonds and bail bond liens that are put against real estate. It is very uncommon for us to come across this, as I said before, but it does happen. And so I'll go a little bit into the background of bail bonds and how they work and how the bail bond liens would affect real estate. Of course, we are all aware that when somebody gets arrested and charged with a crime, they're processed through at the police station, which has a little jail. And at that time, the processing is done. It takes about 1 or 2 hours. And once all the processing is done, there's a court date. But the court date is never on the same day, just because that's how it works, you know. So once there's a court date, the person has the option to either stay in jail until that court date or go home. Going home requires a bail. And typically there are 3 different types of ways that somebody can bail himself or herself out. The first one is to get bailed out on your own recognizance. They call it ROR. And recognizance means I'm giving you my word that I will be back to court for my appearance. So I just sign a note and I walk out of that jail. If that happens, it's the easiest way for the accused person because you don't have to put any money down. You just promise to come back. And not all charges would allow you to do the ROR. So then, of course, you have to do a different type of bail. The other type of bail that the person can do is a cash bail. And the cash bail, it gets too expensive for most people. You know, not everybody has thousands of dollars to put down just to be able to walk out of the jailhouse. So the cash bail gets expensive and people really would rather not do that because most of the time the relatives are the ones that are bailing the person out. So then they look to the third type of bail, which is called a Shorty Bond. A Shorty Bond is done by a third party that's going to stand in place and promise that the accused person will definitely be back for the court appearance. So that Shorty has to pay the bail when it's a bail bonds company. Sometimes lawyers can be shorties, and in that case, the lawyers don't pay anything, but they just swear or, you know, they attest to the fact that they will make sure the person comes back to make the court appearance. The bail bond companies, on the other hand, are the most common types of bails, and they require a premium for their service because they are actually paying money to the court. So let's say that my bail is set at $50,000, then that means that the bail bond company has to come up with $50,000, put that down with the court until the end of my case. That means until the whole case is done, until the disposition of the case. It could be disposed by dismissal, it could be disposed by acquittal, it could be disposed by conviction, and in all different types of ways. However, they are running a risk that I may or may not appear for my court appearances. I may not show up. So they will ask for a premium, and their premium is typically about 10% of the bail amount itself. So let's say my bail was set at $50,000, then they would charge $5,000 as a premium, and my family members would probably be the ones talking to the bail bonds company and helping me out. So they would have to come up with the $5,000 or sign a promissory note for that $5,000. And so the bail bond companies will bail me out, I'll go home, and then I can come back to court and do whatever I need to do to defend myself. So that's the context of the bail bond industry. And the bail bond companies are licensed in the counties where that jail is. So they can work within that county if they're licensed there. And so for them to take that risk that I may or may not appear for my court case, or because there might be several appearances in the future, I may run at some point, they will then ask for collateral for that bail. And the type of collateral they ask for depends on the size of the bail, you know, the amount of the bail, of course, and their comfort level and the other assets that the people have. So most of the time they would accept vehicles as collateral. Of course, it cannot have any other lien on it if they're going to put a bail bond lien on it. And then they would also accept some jewelry sometimes and other types of assets like boats and things like that. And a lot of the times they would want real estate because the bail amount is a large amount. And the relative that has real estate that's able to be used for that will be the one to step up and say, okay, you can use my house or you can use my property as collateral, and I'll make sure that my relative shows up to all the appearances. So the relative signs some documents and then they put a lien on that property, and that lien is there until the case is disposed. Once the case is disposed, no matter the outcome, as I said before, the bail bond company is supposed to release that lien. So what happens in real life is we come across the bail bond liens that have not been released, even though the lien was put on there over 10 years ago, a long time ago. And these liens don't typically have an expiration on them as long as the case is still ongoing or as long as the debt obligation is still owed. So they will see them on there, and then the lawyer has to then research to see if the case was actually already done, because if the case is done, the bail bonds company gets their bail back from the court. So you don't really owe them anything more. If the case was actually done, then the bail bond company will get their bail back from the court that they paid. The only thing that's outstanding to them now then would be the premium that the family members promised to pay. So they might still have the lien out there because the premium was never paid, and they try to collect it and nobody stepped up to pay it. So that could be something that would happen. Sometimes the premium was paid already and the bill was already satisfied because the case was done, but the bail bond companies just they forget to remove the lien because they don't have any incentive to do so. They're not really invested in clearing up the records, So those are the situations we come up with, and that's how this video came to be, because we had questions about that. And when that happens, then all the lawyer has to do is contact the bail bonds company and check the records, in the criminal case and everything, and sort all that out. And of course, address the premium as well. Make sure that was already satisfied, and then they can remove the lien. And it comes up in the property search typically when somebody's trying to sell property or somebody's trying to buy property, and everybody's stopped because they don't remember what that lien was about, because they were helping out a niece or nephew or something like that. The other related thing that's good to know is that in Texas, the bail bond liens are not allowed to be put on a homestead. So a lot of the times the bail bond companies, they ignore that, or they don't really care to look deeply into the status of the property that they're using. They're just excited to put a lien against a collateral that's a good collateral because they like something they can work with and use to really secure their interest in that bail. So they don't really look into the records and check everything to make sure everything's done correctly, and we'll find some bail bond liens that are put against a homestead. And Texas Constitution says that they cannot do that. The only types of liens that can be put against a homestead are a few, and they're listed in the Constitution. Typically the purchase money loan, the one that you use to buy that particular property, of course, can be put against a homestead. Of course, a refinance loan can also be put there. Home equity loan can also be put against a homestead as a lien, as well as the contractor's liens, the mechanics liens for work and material, labor that was put in to improve the homestead. So there are some others that are able to be put against it, but not a bail bonds lien. So it's important to know that. If you ever come across a bail bonds lien and you're not sure how to approach it, quickly look to see whether that property was a homestead in that year that the bail bond lien was put on there. There are several ways to verify that. The quick way is to look to see if the tax office listed a homestead exemption against that property in that year. If they did, then you could use that as evidence. If they didn't claim a homestead exemption in that year, that doesn't mean that it was not a homestead, because the property owner of a homestead is not required to claim the homestead exemption for tax purposes. The way that you'll know if it's a homestead, if the person never had any other property in the state of Texas listed as a homestead, then that could have been their homestead. And then the next thing you'll have to look at is where they're residing on that property, or where their relatives and family members residing on that property for more than 6 months within that year. So then the next thing you'll look at is to see whether the property owner or their family members were residing on that property more than 6 months in that year when the lien was put on there, or in the previous years before the lien was put on there, because that would show that that was their homestead. So there are some other things that the lawyers will look at, but it's best to do a consultation really quickly to get a real estate lawyer's opinion on it and to try to get help to avoid that lien, or at least to clear it up if the bill was already satisfied. So I wanted to do this quick video so that you will be in the know if you come across something like this, and you wouldn't feel like it's too complicated, and know that it's quite easy to remove them or challenge them if you have a lawyer to help you. All right, so I hope this video has been helpful to you. So that's all I have for you for today, and hopefully you've learned one or two things from this video. And if you like the video, please click like, and if you like our channel as a whole, remember to subscribe and hit the bell button so that you can get notifications of our future videos. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.